Just want to say a quick welcome to those of you who have joined us so far. We'll probably be getting started in about 5 minutes or so. We want to give some additional folks the opportunity to hop on. So just sit tight, enjoy this slide loop, and we'll get started in a little while. Just want to say welcome to those of you who've just joined us. We're still waiting on a number of attendees to get on, so we're going to give it just a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. Just want to welcome those folks who are joining us, those who have been on for a while. Thanks for listening to me repeat this message. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes, I would say. We'll give it 2 more minutes and then we're going to dive in. All righty. Well, it looks like we've got a number of folks who have joined us. We're going to go ahead and get started. Just want to thank all of you for joining us today. This is our July monthly meeting for Sustainable Cleveland. For those of you that have engaged with us over the last several years, we've typically had quarterly meetings in person. Since we are not able to do that right now, we are shifting towards a monthly meeting series with sort of specific topics each month. And then each quarter, we're going to try to have more kind of general updates on all things sustainability. So with that, I'm going to just go over some quick housekeeping. I'd like to ask that you please remain muted. You should likely stay muted, but just in case, please remember to mute yourselves. And then please use the chat box for any questions. That's the easiest way for us to moderate those questions. And with that, our topic for July is waste reduction and composting. If you joined us last month for our virtual quarterly meeting, we did cover some of this information. There's some new information as well as some upcoming events that we wanted to share as well. Additionally, we're hoping that this is an opportunity to get some feedback from you, our audience, who is deeply interested in these topics. It's something that has come up quite a bit, so we want to let you know sort of where the city of Cleveland lands, where we're heading, and then again, where we would like you to plug in and get some information from you. So there will be some polling questions as we go along. And then I would also like to note that we are recording this session so that we can share it with anyone who wasn't able to join us. So first things first, where are we at? Many of you know the City of Cleveland's residential curbside recycling program is currently on hold. This definitely was a tough decision for us, but as I'll get into, it was very hard for us to maintain the program. It was not working effectively or cost effectively, and we really knew that we needed to get something new in place. We want to talk a little bit about how we got here. It wasn't just overnight that some of this happened. If you've been following recycling for a while, this is nothing new for you. China's national sword policy back in 2018 really helped lead some of that. It prevented a lot of our sort of dirty recyclables from being sent overseas. And in conjunction, we didn't have domestic markets that were able to support the recycled material that we're getting. And then we have to throw in their contamination rates. When we're not sending clean streams to the recyclers, it makes it a lot more, there's a lot more cost for them to process those materials. And then they pass those costs on to us as cities. So we, of course, want to talk about how we got here, but we really want to focus on sort of where we're heading. A big piece for Sustainable Cleveland is really trying to get Cleveland towards a more local circular economy. The idea being that we are using our material, we are not only creating materials here, but we are also capturing and repurposing them within our region. The more that we can kind of keep in there, the less energy that we're using, the less greenhouse gas emissions that we're seeing, and the more stable our economy is going to be as a result of it. Really, we're just trying to view waste as a resource and not something that's a burden that needs to be disposed of. Additionally, we have hired a consultant to assess our not only just our recycling operations, but really our waste collection operations as a whole. We've provided, some priorities for us through sustainability because we really want to see this be an effective program. They've started some data collection, and we're hoping later in the year there's going to be some opportunities for you to provide some feedback to our consultants as well as in terms of what you'd like to see in future programs. So stay tuned because we have some ways that you can keep engaged with us when we do get to that point. Quickly, I want to open up our first poll question. Which areas of waste reduction / recycling would you like to learn more about? Curbside recycling, waste reduction and reusable options, compost and organic waste diversion, plastic waste reduction, specialty recycling, hazardous waste, e-waste, etc., circular economy, or other. So if you are joining by phone, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to see these, but I'm hoping that the rest of our participants, this is, I have to warn you, this is my first time using the polling option, so I'm really hoping that it works for us. Oh, goodness, hold on. I'm sorry, I opened the wrong question. I apologize. See, this is what happens. Let's try this. There we go. Thank you. Thanks for bearing with me, everyone. So we're going to give everyone about a minute to complete this. Some of this is important for us through Sustainable Cleveland to understand what you want to hear about. So as we're providing information and resources, we can really tailor that to what is of interest to you. So we're going to give it another maybe 30 seconds for folks to complete this, and then we'll move on. We are capturing these as well so that afterwards we'll be able to tap into this information for future communications purposes. All right, maybe 10 more seconds and then the poll will be closed. Okay. Hey, Patty, by a quick nod, can you see the responses of others? Okay. Then we will share these afterwards. I think we're looking there. All right. So thank you all for your participation in this. Looks like we have a pretty good mix across all of the different areas with circular economy and plastic waste reduction and curbside recycling and compost and organic waste diversion kind of coming out on top. So those are topics that our office is working on quite a bit as well. And throughout the presentation, you're going to see a little bit more on those. So next, we're going to move on. We want to share some interim recycling options while the curbside program is on hold. We definitely want to make sure that we give our residents some options to still reduce their waste and recycle some of the materials that they have coming out of their homes. One of the big things that I want to focus on first is that reduce. It's the first R. And, I think it's sometimes one of the most important. We'll also accept rethink, refuse, or being responsible for the things that you're buying. I've heard our solid waste districts say, and this really reigns true, we're not going to recycle our way out of our waste problem. We are a lot of consumers. We buy, we use, we eat, we dispose of millions of tons of things every year. Our economies rely really heavily on this, and we're definitely starting to feel the consequences of that. So we got to take a step back and start to be more mindful of what we're bringing into our homes. It's one of those things when we lost the curbside recycling program. I'm a Cleveland resident myself. You really start to see how much waste you're generating when it's kind of sitting there staring you in the face. I'm starting to pile some things up because I still want to find ways that I can repurpose them, but it's gotten me to rethink my shopping habits, what I'm buying. Do I even need this thing because it has 3 layers of packaging on it? I could go into tons of examples, but just want to be mindful of time. I think one of the other pieces is also really, I want to give all of you a bit of a break. We are kind of at the mercy of this system where everything is in packaging. Sometimes that packaging has 5 different materials in it, and it can get really confusing. Over the last 10 years, we have probably sent out 5 different messages about what's recyclable, what's not. Does it go in bags? Does it not? Trust me, it's not only hard as a communicator, but as a resident, it can be challenging to keep up with. So, some of it we want to encourage our product manufacturers to start making things that are by default recyclable. And we're starting to see some of that. And we're also hoping that our policymakers require those manufacturers to do some of that. And we've started to see it. It's going to be kind of interesting to monitor, but we hope to stay on top of that as those opportunities pop up. So moving along, I just want to talk about the items that should have gone into your curbside bin. If you are a City of Cleveland resident, these are the only 5 items that should have been going into your bin. If you're finding yourself strapped with anything outside of this, it shouldn't have been in there anyway. And the 2 items that we do still have some options for are aluminum cans and paper and cardboard. Let's see. I don't have it up here. The aluminum cans can be taken through the Aluminum Cans for Burned Children, ACBC. There are various locations throughout the city. Many are located at our fire stations. You can visit the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District website for that full list. And we've been in some talks with ACBC to see how we can expand that and provide some additional opportunities for residents to recycle those aluminum cans. And then paper and cardboard, we have tons and tons of drop-off locations throughout the city. River Valley, Oak Harbor, I believe, and I believe there's a third, Abitibi. You'll see them at schools and churches. They're usually green or yellow and green drop-off dumpsters. Those 2, there's a list of them on the Solid Waste District website. Super convenient. You can drop those off. And we're continuing to explore other ways that we can either touch these 3 items or continue to enhance our recycling options for residents in those other 2 areas. We also want to talk briefly about the reuse side of it, the second R. So we really, it's important for us to opt for those reusable products as much as possible. We very much recognize it is hard to do these days, especially with all of the COVID concerns. Many places are, if you're getting takeout, you're getting that disposable serviceware. Many places do not allow you to bring your reusable mug, say for a coffee shop, again, because of those safety concerns. We're trying to get ahead of that. There's been some research that shows there, maybe not the same safety concerns around that as we might have thought, but we also want to be respectful of individuals' own worries. So we're trying to figure out how we can continue to promote waste reduction. You can do a lot of this at home though. So remembering to use a refillable container, a refillable water bottle rather than buying cases of disposable water bottles. We have repair here. I think that's something that we tend to overlook. It's very easy nowadays to hop on your Amazon or your Walmart.com Something breaks at your house, you just go buy a new one, relatively cheap. That one breaks, you'll buy a new one after that. So we want to promote repair as much as possible, and there's a lot of economic development opportunities that can come through that repair economy. And then finally, repurpose. Let's try to get creative in how we use some things. There are some items that just aren't going to be recyclable in traditional ways, but doesn't mean that we can't think of how we can do that. A great example are our friends at the Upcycle Part Shop, who find very unique ways to repurpose items that otherwise would be destined for a landfill. So just want to mention a few other recycling options. Here in the city of Cleveland, we do offer household hazardous waste collection, paper shredding, and electronic wastes. All those materials can be taken to our Division of Wastes Carnegie facility at 5600 Carnegie Avenue. That's Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. There's details here on kind of what is accepted around those items, and you can also find that on the City of Cleveland's website. We also have medications. We also do collections for medications and scrap tires. The medications can be dropped off at local police districts, and then the scrap tires can be accepted in your bulk pickup, up to 4 tires per set out. Touching on that, our bulk collection has resumed. It was on hold for a little while because of COVID, and we're excited that they've brought it back. It is always the first full week of the month. So our next collection week is going to be August 3rd through 7th. There are some guidelines listed here in terms of what can be set out, up to 3 items. Anything that is upholstered, anything with cloth, must be wrapped in plastic. A lot of that is for the safety of our workers as well. And please note that this chair up here, unfortunately, it should be wrapped in plastic. My picture is a little inaccurate. I was going to try to Photoshop it, but my Photoshop skills are not that good. And just a few other notes here. We are not accepting construction material. Boxes and bags are not considered bulk items. So please just keep some of that in mind as you are setting items out. Shifting gears a little bit, I also want to talk about kind of our organic waste diversion and what the City of Cleveland is looking at. We, through the Urban Sustainability Directors Network, are part of a cohort through the Urban Drawdown Initiative, or you'll hear me say UDI. That is a group that's looking at how we can sequester carbon through organic waste diversion. This is especially important because one of our most recent reports, the IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, noted that we're not going to achieve our carbon reduction goals just strictly through mitigation efforts. We have to employ sequestration efforts in order to pull that carbon out of the atmosphere. What gets me especially excited about this topic is I feel like it's a real catalyst for us to get into the circular economy. Again, treating our organic waste as a resource rather than a problem, something that needs to be disposed of. For the other ties in with our projects that we already have going on. So for example, our Cleveland Tree Plan, our 10-minute walk goal to increase access to our local parks, and Project Clean Lake through our stormwater control efforts. One of the examples I like to use with the tree plan would be, how can we get ourselves set up so that as we are removing trees and limbs, we are capturing that waste, we are composting that waste, and then we are using that to specifically grow for our tree pits as we are planting new trees. Those trees that are planted in compost usually see about 30% more survivability. And really, the manager of our urban forestry division has really been emphasizing establishing trees. We want to make sure that those trees that we're planting are surviving. So, this just checks off so many boxes in terms of our climate goals, our sustainability goals, and then the economic and workforce development opportunities that can come from that. So, we're very excited to dive into this. Some of it's moving a little slower, of course, because of COVID, but we've got a few projects kind of starting to bubble up that we're hoping will get this moving. I also want to make sure we're mentioning our friends at the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District. They're doing a lot on backyard composting and vermicomposting. You can see their upcoming seminars here. So if you are interested in learning more, getting something started in your backyard, we highly recommend this. The city of Cleveland currently does not do any kind of curbside compost pickup. So we're really promoting our residents to do as much backyard composting as they can. We also recognize that not everybody has a backyard or has the means to do some of that. Rust Belt Riders, one of our local compost haulers, does offer a weekly compost pickup service. It starts at $30 a month, and you can visit their website, rustbeltriders.com, to learn more. Just an alternative for those of you that aren't able to do backyard composting. Want to make sure we're spreading the word around that. And with that, that brings us to our next polling question. So do you currently do any kind of composting at home? Yes, backyard composting. Yes, vermicomposting. Yes, compost pickup service. No, I would like to start, or no, I don't plan to. So I'm going to open that up, give everybody an opportunity. And I'd like to note this is a paper straw. In case anybody saw me drinking out of a straw, it's paper. All right, looks like we've got a pretty good number of backyard composters. All righty. We'll give it 5 more seconds and then I'm going to close the poll. Okay. Oh, I just saw a comment that someone does both. So thank you for doing both kinds of composting. Very much appreciated. I consider you our overachiever. All right. So I would be remiss if I didn't talk about plastics, and Kathy Len, who's going to be moderating our Q&A a little bit later, is our resident plastic expert. I think COVID has really showed how much we rely on plastics and what our relationship looks like with it. She's been doing a lot through our plastic reduction working group to kind of talk about what that means, look at some of the research that's out there right now on how we can still continue to reduce our plastic waste while staying safe. So if you are interested, please reach out to Kathy or maybe make a note in the chat. She can add you to that working group mailing list if you are interested. And coming up on July 28th, she is doing a screening and panel discussion of the story of plastic. If you have not had the opportunity yet, I highly recommend this. It really gives a great global perspective on kind of how we got here, some of the waste challenges that we anticipate, and some of the solutions that might be on the horizon as well. Again, not just here in the United States, but globally, because this is going to be an issue that needs to be addressed sort of worldwide. So again, that's July 28th. There's a link below here to register, and we'll be following up after this as well with all of these links and other information so that you can hop on, that you can sign up if you're interested. All right, so then that brings me to my next poll question related to plastics. Pre-COVID, how likely were you to bring reusable bags when you went to the store? We recognize that right now there are some issues with the grocery stores will not let you bring reusable bags, or they will require that you bag your own. But again, we're thinking before COVID, how likely were you to bring your bag? All right. I like this group. We've got a lot that are looking at always or most of the time for about 40%. So about 80% of you are always, most of the time, and then a few sometimes when you remember. All righty, so that poll is closed. Again, thank you all for bearing with me as I work through these. So next question, post-COVID, how likely are you to bring your bag? Keeping him, and this is, I think, more, what, based on your personal safety, is this something that you're still interested in doing? We want to make sure that if we have residents that are interested in pursuing or that want to stay committed to bringing their reusable bags, that we try to support you as much as possible. All right. Looks like many of you are still committed to bringing them always or most of the time. And I found, at my local grocery store, as long as I'm willing to bag it myself, most of my cashiers don't have any problem with it. They were a little iffy at first, but as time has gone on, they seem to be much more comfortable with that. All righty. So we do have a zero waste NEO working group. A lot of what we've done over the last several years is promote zero and reduce waste events. We'll host various workshops and provide support for folks who are interested in reducing their event waste. Events are going to take a very different turn over the next several months. Obviously, we're already seeing that happen. Tons of virtual events, but many of us want to remain hopeful that we are going to get back to I'm not going to call it we'll say a new normal at some point, where we are able to engage in person, but that too we're expecting is going to look a little bit different. So our group has been again reviewing a lot of the material that's out there, and we're hoping August and September we'll have some workshops on waste reduction, with a few kind of caveats around COVID-19 considerations and what that means for you as an event organizer. So stay tuned for that. We'll definitely be emailing that out to any folks on our email list, and look for information on that on our social media as well. So what can you do? I think one of the biggest things, and I'm going to add it to the chat box once I close the presentation, is staying connected with us. We have a Google form to collect contact information for folks who are interested in being a part of the conversation. This is not only to share your feedback, but also as information and updates become available, we want to make sure we're getting that information out to you. So for example, if we do have additional outlets for recycled material, don't know what that is yet, but you are the first folks that we want to make sure are aware of it, because you are committed to this and something that you care about. So again, I'll share in the chat box that Google form link, and it'll be included with our follow-up materials as well. But that's one of the best ways that we can get you involved, in addition to what you're doing at home on your own. And then also we want to encourage you to please join us for our summit. It's going to be our first ever virtual summit this October 14th and 15th. We're still getting some of the details together, but we hope probably by next month we'll have registration open so that you can get signed up for that. So please save the date. And with that, I have just my final polling questions. Again, some of this information is for us to be able to better connect with you as we go along. So what social media channels do you use? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, or other? Or you are not on social media? Oop, sorry, everybody. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. Looks like most of you who are able to answer have answered. So thank you for that. And then that's going to bring me to my next question. Which social media channel do you use the most? Which one are we most likely to get your attention from? So this one you should only be able to provide one answer. All right, looks like Facebook and Instagram are probably our most popular. Give it just a couple more seconds and go ahead and close that up. So Patty, by a quick nod, because you're the only person that I can see, can you see the other results as they're showing up? Okay, just the questions? Got it. Thank you. All righty. And our final poll question, where do you go to get updates on waste and recycling information in your community? Oh boy. All right. Oops. Is that poll question up right now? What? Okay, sorry everybody. I don't know why this isn't working. Okay. Of course, probably the one I wanted the most answers to is the one that's not working. No, not showing up. Okay, I'm sorry everyone. I don't know why this one's not working. Maybe feel free to type it into the chat box if you would like. Thank you. Just the letters would be okay. And we're gonna save the chat as well. So I apologize. Thanks WebEx for making me look silly. All right. Well, with that, I just want to thank you all for your time. Appreciate you sitting in, listening on this. And then if you do have questions, please put those in the chat box, either to all attendee, or I'm sorry, to all panelists, or Kathy Len or myself, and we will do our best to answer those. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. And Kathy, do you get any questions?
Yes, we do have a couple questions. The first one is about yard waste.
Yes.
And the question is, what about composting yard waste? Will that be included in Project Drawdown or in the city's plans for reducing waste? Also, could you please remind me, are there neighborhoods or communities near Cleveland where we compost yard waste?
I will answer the first question, and then the second part I will do my best to answer if I understand it correctly. So yes, yard waste is definitely on our radar for the Urban Drawdown Initiative. I will be honest, I think we're going to be looking at some of our city generated waste first, i.e. some of the stuff coming from our Urban Forestry Division as they are removing or maintaining trees, as well as our parks and any trees that may be, again, removed or maintained from our park system. We definitely want to get to the point where we can include yard waste as a collection service for our residents, or at a minimum provide some drop-off locations for residents. Some of it's going to be, you know, what our consultant recommends, but know that the Office of Sustainability is very engaged in that process and are going to try to push for those options as much as possible, or at a minimum, how can we get set up to be on a pathway to get those in place over the next several years? And then the second question, I'm not sure if you mean to drop, like if you're a Cleveland resident and you want to drop off your material, or if you're asking where materials are composted nearby. I know there are a number of suburbs around Cleveland that do some of their own composting, or they actually will take it to another facility. Kurtz Brothers locally does a lot of our composting. They're probably one of the closest ones in Cleveland. And those are some of the main ones that I know of. So I hope I answered that okay.
Okay, then next question is, well, there's a couple questions around businesses and composting. First one, is there anything that the City of Cleveland is doing or can do to support or encourage businesses to compost?
We are always supporting and encouraging businesses to compost. There's nothing that we are particularly mandating right now. And I know we actually had a number of businesses that were composting pre-COVID, but a lot of those, of course, were in the food service industry. So I think it's going to really depend on the business itself. We have seen, I know it was the state of Vermont recently passed a no food waste in the waste stream ordinance. So, that may be something that down the line we can look at. But I will tell you, I don't think we're there yet. We have a ways to go. I know we want to make sure that our residential program is really solid, and then we'll look at how we can encourage that for businesses. So I don't know if that fully answered it, but we definitely are supportive of it. We want to try, and I think we're looking at how we can sort of lead by example in the city as well. And we're hopeful that as we kind of come out of this COVID, if some opportunities pop up, we'd like to be able to do more composting of our own organic waste.
Okay, thank you. Already kind of answered this, but I'll ask it again. Do businesses in Cleveland have to report how much or what type of waste they produce? And wouldn't this be a useful accountability tool?
They are not required to. We get most of our waste data from the county on the commercial side. Some of it's just very challenging because businesses can hire any waste hauler that they choose. Well, I don't say any waste hauler, they should be certified waste haulers, but they have many options when it comes to that. And it's hard for us to pinpoint how much waste is being generated from Cleveland businesses versus others through those private haulers. So we use some of that data. Unfortunately, the data that we have available is at a much higher level. We do participate with the Cleveland 2030 district, who encourages businesses to track a lot of their sustainability data. I don't think that they're tracking waste, but that's something that we could always promote as part of the process.
Okay, thank you. Then there's two questions that are somewhat related. Do you recommend Cleveland residents drop off recycling at Ridge Road Transfer Station? And is Cleveland still dumping recycling into the main waste stream?
So the city of Cleveland currently does not have a recycling contract. So if you bring your recyclables to the Ridge Road Transfer Station, I'm sorry to say they unfortunately will be destined for a landfill. My recommendation right now is to separate out those items that do have some outlets. So as I had mentioned earlier, the aluminum cans and paper and cardboard, I would take those to the drop-off locations that we mentioned, aluminum cans at fire stations. Again, look at the County Solid Waste District under the Cleveland tab, and you'll be able to see the full list of those materials. Yes, unfortunately, all of our material is going into one stream, but we are actively looking at how we can provide some options for residents. Again, those two, I keep going back to those two materials because aluminum cans and paper and cardboard, because right now, in all reality, those are the two materials that have market value that people actually want to buy. Unfortunately, nobody wants to buy our dirty recycled plastics. And typically they're mixed plastics as well as the glass and the aseptic cartons. So I just saw a quick question about only aluminum, not steel or tin. For the aluminum cans for burn children, yes, please only aluminum. They try to keep their streams very clear. We do also have a number of scrappers, and I believe we have that up on our website as well. On the Sustainable Cleveland website with a list of our local metal scrappers and what they can take. I definitely encourage you to look at that before just going to a scrapyard, because you do have to make sure to bring an ID, and they take your information down as part of their requirements, their regulations.
Okay, and another question. Who do we contact to get bulk leaves and chips dumped at our farm at East 67th and Superior?
I think we can work on that. We'll need to figure out how much you have, but we can connect you with our urban forestry department and possibly our streets once leaf collection resumes. That is something that we've done in the past. As long as we can operationalize it, which I don't think that would be too much of a problem since you're sort of right in the heart of the city, we can periodically do some drop-offs. So we'll follow up with you offline on that.
Is there will be a recycling solution for apartment buildings at some point in the future?
We have included in our consultant scope looking at some multifamily, kind of going back to what we were talking about with businesses. It gets a little challenging because every apartment building is different. So, we've talked over the years about having some kind of recycling policy that applies to multifamily. One of the challenges that I found is each apartment building is different. They may not have the space to support two recycle bins, or each one has a different waste hauler. So there needs to be definitely a coordinated effort. Maybe I know we had hoped to work with the Cleveland Tenants Association, but we'll try to see how we can do that. The County Solid Waste District has done quite a bit around that, and I believe has some resources for folks if you are looking to try to get something going in your own apartment, just some steps that you can take.
Okay, are businesses still able to recycle if they have individual contracts with recycling providers?
Yes, you should. You definitely should be able to. And if not, you need a new contract.
Okay. Can we recycle plastic that has colors on it like soda wrappers?
So I'll go quickly back to just for reference. Hold on, how do I share my screen? All right, you all are about to see. Oh wait, maybe I can. Oops. We're gonna go through it really fast, so sorry. This gives you a whiplash or anything. Let's see, plastic bottles and jugs. I want to emphasize this because I know there's actually some folks from the Solid Waste District out here as well. We kind of like to say anything where it goes up at the top and has a cap are the only items. So as long as it meets that criteria, even if it does have sort of a label on it, that's okay. It's just these are the more high value plastics that have a market to be recycled. And caps on, and please make sure those items are clean and dry. Empty and dry, I believe is the word we're looking for.
Okay, do you have any literature to share with Cleveland residents? Can we share info from this webinar with residents?
Yeah, definitely. We will make this presentation available. I saw that was a question from someone else. We have a number of links on our website, and Brittany heads up our social media. Hi, Brittany. And she's regularly posting a lot of this information as well. So we can definitely pull pieces of this out so that we pass that along to our residents in an easy to digest form. All right.
And there was a question about whether we'd be sharing all the links that are in the chat box, and yes, we will be.
All right. I'm just giving my chat a quick look as well. Ooh, I got a question. What drives the changes of what can be recycled? It is confusing and more stuff goes to the landfill. Unfortunately, it's our markets that drive it. We can recycle all we want, but if there isn't somebody to buy that material and have a purpose for it, it's going to just sit there. It can be baled, but it doesn't, it doesn't have the value, and it then gets more cost effective or more cost prohibitive for our material recovery facilities or MRFs to process that stuff out. So if you think about it, I'm sending, my recycle bin that's got 50% paper, 25% plastic, and 25% everything else. MRF is more inclined to want the paper than any of the other materials because they can actually sell that for more than what it's costing them to process it. It's really our markets. I am hopeful though. We've seen that there are some paper markets here domestically, even in Ohio, that are starting to pop up. We have a lot of paper mills. As I'm sure many of you are aware, cardboard is a hot commodity these days because everybody's getting things shipped and delivered. So there's definitely a high demand for that. So it's really where there's demand. And I want to stay hopeful that we are getting more innovative in the types of materials that we can recycle, how recycling them and how we're repurposing them, so that we only continue to see more of those markets starting to emerge. I think that might be all of the questions that we've gotten so far. Do a couple more seconds. There was a comment that when the market fell out for glass, Oberlin used the glass to serve as a base during street repaving. So, that's a great example of some of that innovation that I'm talking about. Again, these materials, they may feel like a waste, but let's get creative, people. We can figure out how to turn these into resources. And find new ways to use them. I think that's the only way that we're going to get ourselves onto a path of a more circular economy where we're reusing as much as possible and sending as little to a landfill as we can. I'll give it just a couple more. I think
there was some clarification on the one question about recycling plastic that has colors on it, like soda wrappers. I think she was asking about like the plastic wrap or plastic film that we take to the grocery stores.
And actually, Kathy, I might defer to you on that one. So I've historically only brought plastic bags myself, though I will tell you, I have been holding on to my plastic films for a very long time, and at some point start to feel like a little bit of a hoarder. If you saw the 8 bags of plastic bags and films I have in my basement. Do you know, Kathy? Or I'd say if Karen's on the line here, she might have.
I mean, I believe that, the wraps around like paper towels and toilet paper, that film is all accepted at the grocery stores.
Okay, then I would.
Yes, Karen, if you want to add anything to that, please do.
Yeah. And thank you to Dave, who provided a link, and I'll send this to all attendees for plastic film recycling. So it sounds like yes. And again, same rules as your curbside recycling, as long as that is clean and dry and empty and dry, I think it's acceptable. Yes. right.
I think
I'm
that
gonna
might be it.
yeah, maybe another minute or two. But we will again be following up with this information probably later this week or by early next week at the latest. Continuing to get as much information out as we can. Again, please sign up on that Google form if you haven't yet. We really want to stay connected with those of you who are interested and care about this topic. And please encourage your family and friends to do the same. I think we're especially looking for some input from folks who are not maybe your typical sustainability person. A lot of times we're preaching to the choir. You know, many of you, I think, know some of this information or you know, just have been living it for many years. I think we're trying to touch the folks who it's not part of their daily lives, maybe not high up on their priority list. So you know, please try to get others to help sign up as well, because it's important for us to really have a full perspective of our Cleveland residents as we start to embark on new programs. Again, it doesn't look like we're getting too many more questions, so I just want to say thanks to everyone. We're going to go ahead and yeah, we're going to be saving the chat box as well for any follow-ups. So we'll go ahead and end the meeting a little bit early. Thank you for sharing your afternoon with us, and we look forward to staying in touch and staying connected throughout the rest of the year. So have a good rest of your week, everyone. Thank you. Stay safe and healthy.
Bye, everyone.